Hi, Kyle from Infidelity here. Today I've got a real treat for you. This is the new MrSpeakers Aeon headphone, A-E-O-N, with the A and the E smashed together. This is a $799 sealed over-ear planar magnetic headphone, and I really love it. We'll go through the normal build quality stuff, just like all of MrSpeakers headphones of late. It has a nitinol or nitinol headband. This is a very elastic and sort of memory metal headband that has a nice even caliper pressure no matter how big your head is. And I find them on all the MrSpeakers Ether headphones, for example, very comfortable, and it's no different on this headphone. This is a very comfortable fit. The sliders adjust right here up and down to adjust the leather headband, which conforms nicely to the top of your head. The ear cups are quite an unusual shape with this teardrop shape here. I asked Dan Clark, who's the CEO of MrSpeakers, about this shape, and what he said was he discovered that if you run your thumb right down the front of your ear here, there's sort of a ridge that happens behind the jawbone and behind the cheekbone and in front of the ear, and this is sort of a linear depression that runs down, and the front part of these ear pads are designed to run right along that depression. And when in that position, I found this to actually fit very, very well. So it's a little unusual, but a very ergonomic shape. Headband pad is leather. The ear pads themselves are very nice leather over memory foam. These ear pads are replaceable, but they are adhered on with double-sided tape, and the user can replace them when they wear out and start to go flat, but it's not an ear pad that you can pull off, take off and put on very easily, given that it's attached with an adhesive. Even if you do take it off, Dan tells me there's coverings over, so you can't really see much of what's going on anyway. Usually I take off the ear pad so I can look inside, but couldn't do it with these. Shells here are carbon fiber for that part of the shell. I believe this is some sort of a plastic. The baffle plate right here that holds the driver internally, and also this arm, the bail arm that comes down, these are all forged or cast aluminum with some secondary machining operations. So the materials are very high quality. Dan continues to use the connectors he's already used, and if you look at the article on Infidelity, I've got a link to where these connectors can be bought from MrSpeakers if you want to make your own cables. The cable is they call it their DUM, D-U-M, distinctly unmagical cable. It's just a standard cable. It's maybe a little thick and heavy, but not too bad. It's about 4 feet long and terminates in a straight 3.5 millimeter stereo jack with a screw-on 1/4 inch adapter, so that's quite nice. Let's see, it also comes with these little foam inserts. There's 2 of them, one for each earpiece that you can simply put in. What these foam pieces do is essentially give the frequency response a tilt, a warm tilt with them in and a cooler tilt with them out. The effect is not very strong. It's relatively subtle, but it's just freaking right. I mean, without these pads, it's just a little bit too bright for me. With these pads, it's pretty much spot on. It also comes with this nice black case. I used to kvetch about the brown cases on the Ethers being so ugly that people wouldn't steal them. This is pretty utilitarian looking case, but it fits the headphones well, and it's a nice hard case, so it does protect them well. So I like the case quite a bit, and that's about it for the accessories, the cable and the case, which is plenty for a headphone like this. Also comes with a certificate of authenticity and a serial number on it. The serial numbers are laser etched in the left top part of the bail right here. So, sound quality, wow. It was very interesting. Dan sent me a sort of a pre-production late prototype of this headphone, and I had a listen and I liked it very much. And then he sent me one of the very first production units, and I measured and had to listen to it, and I thought it wasn't quite as good as the pre-production unit I heard. And I gave him a call, and immediately he said, no, we're actually changing that. I'll send you some more headphones. I asked him to send me 3 so that I could do some comparison and see what the unit-to-unit variations were like. He did pull 3 units at random out of stock. I'm going to take his word for it on that. He's a stand-up guy. The measurements showed that they were much more like the pre-production unit. In fact, I liked the tuning of the production units after that very early production unit that I got quite a bit better actually than either of the two. The frequency response is just virtually dead on the Harman target response curve. Really nice. The transition from the bass to the mid-range, the bass is elevated maybe 3 dB, transitions down in between 100 and 150 hertz with a nice even smooth transition into the mid-range. The mid-range just gradually goes up until you get to about 1K and then goes up and over the top at 3.5K. There is a very small little peak at 5K. To some extent you can mitigate that peak just by positioning on your head. What I found was that if you put the headphones in exactly the center position, I like to wear them a little bit forward and a little bit down from that, and that tends to smooth things out really nicely. The presence region from 1 to 3K is just perfectly balanced. The vocals, all the overtones seem just about exactly right. Vocals are present but not in your face. They're just the right kind of distance from you. The treble response as a whole is very nice, very well balanced, except for that little tiny peak at 5K. And then I don't want to overemphasize that this is just a very small thing, and didn't really bother me at all, especially with the little pads in there. It seemed to help that a little bit as well for me. I think some people are going to like it just fine without the little pads in there, because the balance is very nice as in that way as well. There's not too much difference between the two. Maybe an overall 3 dB difference at the end of the curves as it tilts up and down. Maybe not even that much. The bass goes up maybe 1 dB, and the mid-range goes down maybe 1 dB, and the treble goes down maybe 2 dB overall with the pads in there. The treble response in terms of cymbals sounding like cymbals and snare drums sounding like snare drums is just spot on. This is a really hard thing to get right, and something I always listen for. And the balance between the tang of the fundamental note of the cymbal and the tiz and all the overtones of it is just beautiful. In addition, the impulse response is really good, very distinct spike, and then there's a little bit of ringing, very typical of planar dynamic headphones, a little bit of what the folks at Super Best Audio Friends calls the ortho wall. At any rate, the timing response and the transient response is spectacular on these headphones. Really terrific detail in everything you hear. Imaging is quite good. There is a decent sense of depth. It's not as deep as some headphones, open headphones in particular. I kept on having to go back and compare these to open headphones because they pretty much slayed any sealed headphones that I had on hand, including the Ether C and Ether C Flow. To my ears and for my tastes. So the image has a decent depth, not real deep, but decent depth, has good width, and is nice and specific. So there's good separation from the instruments. Each instrument is very specific in where it is, and the stability of the image is very, very good. So the timing response is excellent on these. In terms of dynamics, they do sound a little compressed to me. They certainly didn't have the punch of the Focal Elir or Utopia, for example, that are really, really punchy headphones, or didn't have the bass punch of an Odyssey headphone. But overall, because the tonal balance was so good, that didn't bother me too much. Also, in terms of the frequency response, it is a little coarse. It doesn't have nearly the big bumps and wiggles and resonances that you'll often find in sealed headphones, but it also wasn't perfectly smooth and even like, for example, a Sennheiser HD600 is, and as a result, it doesn't have that liquid refinement that you'd find in a good open headphone, and it's not surprising. It's a sealed headphone. Again, I had to keep comparing them to open headphones as I was listening. So it does lack a little bit in refinement. It is just a little hard sounding in the upper mid range. I'm going through my criticisms here, because I've got to do that. So in the end, with this slightly compressed, not quite as dynamic as a good piece, slightly uneven sound, I would characterize it as a very competent listen, but not a particularly inspiring listen in any one way. And that's the risk you run with a very, very well balanced headphone. There's nothing that is drawing too much attention to itself, and it's not doing anything extraordinary like some headphones might do in terms of liquidity or musicality or things like that. But it makes up for it times two in terms of being excellently balanced in tonality. As Floyd Toole says, if you don't get your frequency response right, nothing else matters. And boy, do these get the frequency response right. They are just a dialed in headphone. I absolutely love them for that. So at $799, they're a bit pricey, but they're certainly not one of these $2,000 headphones that are underperforming for their price. I would say this is a terrific value. I would highly, highly recommend it to audio pros. The isolation is quite good. It's a sealed headphone again, and the tonal balance is terrific. I would confidently recommend it to audio pros who are doing mixing and stuff like that on it, because it's going to portray things just bloody right. And for audiophiles, I would also say it's a terrific sealed reference, not reference level, but a sealed reference headphone, because I find, and I've begun to find, and I'm sure I'll find more and more over time, that these headphones are going to get used as a reference for their tonal accuracy, and I'll be switching back and forth between them and future headphones a lot in order to see how the tonal balance is, and then to see if something is doing better in terms of its nuanced resolve and liquidity and that kind of stuff, which would be nice. But again, with a sealed headphone, it's stunning that those issues are at very, very minor levels with this headphone. So you betcha they're going to go up on the Wall of Fame. Dan may be disappointed that it's going to knock the Ether C and the Ether C Flow off the Wall of Fame, because they are, to my ears, a bit too thin or coarse in their presentation. Hell, it might just knock everything off the sealed Wall of Fame. No, I guess I can't do that, because they're still $800, and there's got to be something at a lower price level. But man, in terms of price performance, I've not seen a headphone at this price deliver so much. This is the $800 headphone we've all been waiting for. The only other downside to these headphones is that they are somewhat inefficient, and while you can power them off of a smartphone, what you're going to find is you're really not going to get the kind of levels out of it that solid listening level that you're going to want, especially with things like classical music and non-dynamically compressed music. Some of the parts are just going to get too quiet. So if you're wanting to use this portable, use some sort of a dedicated DAP that has a good amp section, or a portable headphone amplifier to go along with it, and you'll get a lot more out of them. So you betcha these babies are going up on the wall of fame. Please try to get your ears underneath a pair of these MrSpeakers Aeons as soon as you can, because, well, if you don't have $800 in your wallet, you may want to forego that for a little bit, because you're going to want $800 in your wallet after you get a chance to listen to one of these. I'm stoked. I love this headphone. I hope you get a chance to hear one soon, and I'll see you guys next time.